What's up? What's up? What's up? Your boy Domuto. We're back with another video today. We're watching What If Goku Was Evil, part five, maybe part six, by Saiyan, and this was recommended by Bart Jones, who wanted me to finish the story. I started the story like 9 months ago, so you want to watch part one of that? Um, you can go just get to the end of the video, and I'll have part one ready for the next video. Part one right there, ready right here. You know what I'm saying? By the end of the video, and then you just watch from there. But yeah, part five. I do remember Goku was with Turles. And I think they were getting chased by Frieza or some shit. It's been a minute since I watched this, so excuse my memory on this. But make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Y'all ready to get into it? I'm ready to get into it. Let's go.
Now with a brand new Crusher Corps, an entire army actually, finding planets to take over is actually pretty simple now. They could just spread their resources far and wide. They don't need to be at these planets exactly. They could just have soldiers go there, clear out everything, basically like they did on the Frieza, and then they go to the planet themselves, planting another Tree of Might. Continuously they're growing stronger, but there is a bit of an issue. They've kind of already gotten rid of most of the planets in this area. There is one section of the galaxy that Kakarot's waiting to go to, acting like there's nothing there. It's Earth, and he's basically able to keep Turles away from it. Kakarot's not too sure what he wants to do about that yet. Something is holding him back. But besides that planet, they've basically gotten all the worthwhile ones so far. And Turles is wondering, they've already taken the energy from all the planets, so is there a way to actually take it from the stars now? That's going to be kind of impossible. Maybe they're just going to have to expand their horizons. They have their researchers working on trying to figure out ways to steal energy from stars, but in the meantime, they are going to have to go to different galaxies. Which is a win-win because they will find more planets, and they're spreading their influence, possibly even getting a stronger army along the way. But even with that, there's kind of an issue too alongside it. It could be because the fruits they have are pretty weak, but they're noticing diminishing gains from the fruits. They need more actual fighting experience. So, who knows? Once they venture out into other galaxies, maybe they will get this. They need more planets, more fruits, and they need more fighting. But Frieza was really the last threat here, the only person who could actually hope to face them, and they defeated him. So, now what? There's nobody here in this galaxy.
Yeah, the big Frieza.
Maybe other ones have some strong people. But they aren't actively seeking these people. Yeah, it would be great to fight others, but also that means more conflict for their army. The two train with each other, sparring from time to time, but that's really it. It's not like they could kill each other and fight to the death, so they're not even going all out in their battles. Except on rare occasions when they have time to heal afterwards. But they're both getting kinda bored. They need something different, a change in pace. Besides giving them something to do and not making them bored anymore, it's necessary to grow stronger. As they're expanding their outreach, the Neo Crusher Corps begins taking over more planets in other galaxies. They do meet little resistance, but their army is strong enough to actually take over. But one day, one of their armies faces more resistance than usual. Okay, that's not too unexpected, but still, it's worthwhile to check out. They did lose some soldiers, and that could mean that this planet is potentially really strong, which means more energy from them, and that means it's a top priority. They didn't even get any word back from their soldiers, they were just immediately eradicated by some force. But it's kind of strange because once they get to this planet, there's no one there. There's no civilizations that rule the planet or whatever, it's just empty. It's like somebody was already there and pillaged it. But that makes no sense. If this planet's uninhabited and it's already pillaged, who did that? Because their army sure didn't. Someone killed their army. At least that faction of it. Maybe this planet actually isn't strong. And Kakarot tells Turles, there is another explanation.
What's up?
Maybe there's another faction going out there. Someone strong like them that's taking over planets as well. Maybe they stepped into somebody else's territory. Turles grins. This is exactly what he wanted. Another faction just like the Frieza Force is probably out there, in this galaxy. They could defeat that faction, growing stronger and getting a nice battle out of it. And not to mention, once they defeat that faction, if they do exist, that means they get all that faction's resources as well. Turles tells Kakarot this is exactly what they needed. He's excited, and now Kakarot kind of is too. This is gonna be great. Finally, a real battle. Well, maybe. Their Crusher Corps was a little bit weaker, so who knows? This faction that they counter might not even be that strong. But still, it's at least something to do now. And while they're discussing this, they get word from recon soldiers in their army. Apparently, they've located these people, so they do exist. That theory turned out to be true. There's some sort of ship flying through space, and it seems that there's 5 high power levels on it. There's no army with them, and it's a relatively small ship. It must be a really small faction then, unless this is only part of it. Turles and Kakarot immediately depart this planet, trying to chase whatever crew this is. It eventually leads them into another planet, possibly that other crew's base of operations. Their scouters show no other power levels there, and from what they could sense, they only sensed those 5 people. They land far away, trying to be covert, and then sneaking up on wherever this faction went to. They're in uncharted territory, so they could be facing anything. They're going to be a little bit careful here. As they make their way to where that other faction landed, suddenly, a ki blast flies right towards Turles. Quickly, he flings his hand out in front of him, countering it with his own blast. And then another blast hits him from behind. One hits Kakarot as well. And now they can sense it. There's 4 soldiers around them. One in every direction. They're surrounded. One of them jumps out, attacking point blank, and they finally see the face of one of the people they were fighting. He proclaims that the Hera clan will not fall to these two. This is their territory. These planets are theirs to pillage. Interesting. The Hera clan. Turles hasn't heard of that, and obviously Kakarot hasn't either. It turns out they've stumbled upon a group of space pirates. Kind of like them, but in a different way. Kakarot and Turles try fighting this guy, and then he transforms, turning a little bit different. 3 of his allies then step out. A 4v2. Not really that fair, but Turles doesn't care. He powers up, surrounded by an ominous red glow, and Kakarot does the same. They look at each other, remembering that they're on the verge of getting some new power. This might be what pushes them to that, depending on how strong this Hera clan actually is. But something is weird too. They sensed 5 people before, why are there only 4 attacking? One of them then launches strings of energy towards Kakarot, tying him up and holding him where he is. Turles tries to attack him and free Kakarot, but then 2 other soldiers step in front of them. They don't know who these people are or how strong they are. And once again, they still don't know what to expect, so they're being careful. Turles would love to have a good fight, but he wants to make this quick, not knowing what they're capable of. What if they could all transform like that other
I don't
guy?
like Bojack.
I mean, these 3 don't seem as strong as him, maybe. So Turles has a new goal.
Bojack minions are
He has
ass.
to kill them one by one, before they could transform, if they could transform. First, he turns to Goku.
Like, I was trying to hold that in while watching
He's the
story.
stronger one. Well, Turles will make sure to kill him first. Now that he's showing off his full strength, a 1v1 will suffice. He charges a powerful blast, knocking Zangya and Beto away. He lunges towards Bujin to try and free Kakarot. And of course, Kogu tries to defend Bujin. And this is all a diversion. As soon as he's attacked, Turles then turns around, quickly piercing a hand through Kogu. And with another swift motion, he charges a quick attack to kill Bujin with. Zangya and Beto recuperate, lunging towards Turles, but now with Kakarot freed, he jumps into the fight, powering up even more, fighting both of them at once. Turles breathes a sigh of relief. He watches as Kakarot prepares to kill the other 2, but then another blast comes out of nowhere. Kakarot's barely able to jump out of the way in time, and the blast almost hits the other 2 as well. They look up. On a nearby cliff, they see another person standing there, one who they haven't seen before, but they can tell just by how he looks that he's definitely the boss of these guys. And he seems pretty angered. 2 of his people are already dead. Not only that, but these 2 people, whoever they are, they're trying to take over his territory, trying to take what they already pillaged. Of course, the 2 factions can't coexist, but Bojack's not worried. He introduces himself, saying that whatever army they have, the Hera clan will definitely take it over once he kills these 2. Turles then introduces himself, with Kakarot doing the same, and Turles commends them for their effort, excited for a new battle, but he also tells them this will be pretty swift. Turles and Kakarot power up, lunging towards Bojack, and he does something really unexpected. He grabs Beto and Zangya, flinging them towards Turles and Kakarot. Doing that to his own soldiers?
It killed them.
Hell? I mean, they're not necessarily the most compassionate, but still. The 2 of them then throw each other around like objects to distract other fighters. But whatever, Turles and Kakarot each kill those 2 with 1 attack. And Bojack knew they wouldn't stand a chance. He just used that as a distraction. Once the smoke from their blast dissipate, Turles and Kakarot see Bojack standing there, looking different. Oh crap, he transformed just like the other guy. Okay, well, they killed that other guy relatively easily, so maybe this guy won't be that strong.
True.
And very quickly, they find out that assumption is very wrong. The 2 lunge at Bojack in unison, and he's able to actually guard against both their attacks. Effortlessly blocking a punch from each of them, the 2 begin attacking more rapidly, each with a flurry of punches and kicks that Bojack guards against. He then grabs both of their arms, slamming them into the ground, and then picking them up by their heads. He holds them out in front of him, starting to even crush their heads. In the nick of time, Kakarot charges a ki blast with his feet, launching it towards Bojack's face, just to get away from his grip. And with all his might, he tries to attack Bojack's other arm to free Turles. Bojack doesn't take too much damage from this, but it does anger him, getting a ki blast right in his eyes. They'll pay for that. He'll make their death even slower. Turles tries to charge energy, while Bojack simply sticks out a hand, charging his own blast and launching it towards Turles. Turles quickly tries to counter with his own blast, with the blast that's not even fully charged yet, and he's barely able to survive from this, but the blast knocks him far away, as Bojack runs towards Kakarot. Kakarot guards with both arms, and Bojack punches him, knocking Kakarot far back. His arms are shaking. He felt that attack through his whole body. Quickly, he tries to charge more energy. His red aura grows fiercer and fiercer, but nothing works. Bojack simply grabs him, slamming him into the ground once more. With Kakarot firmly planted into the ground, Bojack jumps up into the sky, falling back down and stepping right on Kakarot's chest. He jumps up again, pummeling Kakarot further and further into the ground. He's bloodied and beaten, and Bojack lifts him up from the crater that he made. Like he promised, he's gonna make Kakarot's death slow. He holds Kakarot in front of him, using him as a punching bag. Each punch hurts more than the last, and Kakarot could feel something within him, something boiling up. But Bojack's just about ready to finish it. He swings his arm behind him, preparing to throw Kakarot into the sky, then flinging him upwards. Kakarot is barely conscious, but he sees on the ground below. A bright light is coming towards him. Bojack launches a final attack, ready to take Kakarot out. But Kakarot's red aura grows fiercer and fiercer, and just as the attack's about to hit, an explosion occurs. It seems that Bojack's attack dissipates. At first he thinks it just exploded, and he smirks, thinking that he killed Kakarot. But when the blast dissipates, he sees that red aura again, that same one that Kakarot had. It's there, and it's bigger than before, growing fiercer and fiercer. He can feel the heat from it down here. And far away, Turles can see the same thing. He rushes back to the battle, wondering what this is. Slowly, Kakarot descends from the sky, looking a little different than before, and Bojack's confused. His hair, it's a lot longer. His aura is fiercer. He's bulked up considerably. But other than that, he looks kind of the same. Bojack chuckles. Is that a transformation? His hair grew longer. Like, what is that? And Kakarot doesn't even realize what happened. But this is his evil Saiyan form. From feasting on all those fruits from the Tree of Might, he unlocked this unwittingly, and this battle is what pushed him over the edge. And this is what him and Turles were looking for. They knew it was in there. They just needed something to unlock it, a catalyst for it. Bojack tries to attack Kakarot again, but his attack does nothing. Kakarot's actually able to block it, grabbing Bojack's fist and twisting it. He breaks Bojack's arm, and Bojack screams in pain. This power, it's unlike anything that he's seen before. How did Kakarot get this strong? Whatever, Bojack will kill him. He already beat him enough. Bojack jumps far back, then charging another attack. This will be his final one. This will kill Kakarot, and then he'll deal with that
hole
other
in his
person.
stomach.
He launches a full power blast towards Kakarot, and Turles watches from far away. He doesn't know what's going on, but he knows that Kakarot's not going to survive that. The blast is moving at insane speeds, with insane power, and Kakarot simply sticks a single hand out. Even with the immense speed of the blast, he stops it, and just the force of it hitting his hand alone creates a massive shockwave. And Kakarot looks down at it, holding the blast in his hand. Slowly the color of it morphs, changing into a reddish glow, like one of Kakarot's own attacks. And simply, he flings it right back towards Bojack, with more speed than before, with more power than before. Bojack can't even react in time and guard against it. It's a gruesome sight as it cuts right through him, destroying most of his body and leaving only a couple scraps behind. The blast careens off into space and then explodes. The entire sky turns red. As Turles then finally makes his way back to Kakarot, that ominous glow of his aura and the ominous glow in the sky, he only sees its silhouette of Kakarot, but it's terrifying and also thrilling at the same time. And just from sensing his power alone, he can see that Kakarot did it. He begins laughing. Finally, this is what they needed, and now he knows what he's aiming for. Kakarot's aura then dissipates as he falls to the ground unconscious, returning back to his normal self. He still did take a lot of damage after all, and after transforming and using all that power, he is pretty tapped out. But this is exactly what they needed. This battle got them what they wanted. And now their conquest in this new galaxy begins, as well as the rest of space. But Turles is a bit worried about something. As he takes Kakarot and they leave the planet together, he thinks to himself, is Kakarot getting too far ahead of him? I mean, he could trust Kakarot by now, but the words of Vegeta echo in his head. Can he really trust Kakarot? Hopefully he can. I mean, there's been some disagreement so far, but it's nothing too huge.
Hey, don't listen to
But now
Vegeta,
with
bro.
Kakarot actually being the stronger one, Turles can't pretend that he isn't even a little bit concerned. It should work out fine though. It's worked out so far, and Turles just needs to get stronger too. Before they leave, he plants another Tree of Might here, getting some fruit from that as well, growing a little bit stronger. Once he unlocks that form, he'll be ahead of Kakarot again. He's glad to have Kakarot as a partner, but also at the same time, he kinda does want to be the strongest. Not only for reassurance, but just out of pride as well. With the planet now scorched from the battle and scarred by the Tree of Might, Turles carries Kakarot back to their ship as they depart. Kakarot eventually does regain consciousness, vaguely remembering the battle, and he's elated beyond belief. That power, he needs to access that again. He needs to use it, hone it even further. This is the true power of the Tree of Might, all those fruits that they've eaten. And he tells Turles, he expects to see him with the same form too. This is what they were aiming for. And this reassures Turles at least. For now, he and Kakarot are still on good terms, even though Kakarot clearly knows he's the stronger one at the moment. But will that end up changing in the future? Well, at least for the moment, everything's okay. Let's hope it stays
Find out
that
next
way.
time on Dragon
And while
Ball
this sticks in
Z.
Turles' mind, this is where we'll leave off for now. So, what did you guys think of Turles, but everybody else for that matter? Of course, this isn't the end for him. He's gonna grow even stronger than this. This is only the beginning in his eyes. He enjoys this, and he's still working alongside Turles, not just going on their normal conquest, but trying to help him unlock his form as well. If Turles gets
I want
it,
this one.
it'll only push Kakarot to grow even stronger, because he'll have a training partner that will be as strong as him, and it'll make him want to fight for that number 1 spot. But their
okay.
conquest is slowing. They've grown so strong by now with all these fruits that they actually do need to train more. Getting the fruits is not as effective as it once was. And Turles is trying to think of a plan, some way for them to grow stronger and stronger. But he still isn't sure about Kakarot. Can he trust Kakarot with all this power?
Hey, calm down,
it's
Turles.
pushing Turles as well, not just Kakarot. And after some more fruits and some training, Turles can feel that power overflowing. Unlike Kakarot, he doesn't need a catalyst here because there's just so much power that he can't contain it anymore. Finally, after all this time, he's able to power up, showcasing his own evil Saiyan form, looking very similar to Kakarot. Which makes sense because they kind of already look the same from the get-go. They are both low-class warriors after all. And now that Turles finally has this power, Kakarot asks him to do something that he's been waiting for. They need to have an all-out battle, just to test their abilities and grow stronger in the process. And Turles accepts this. Turles goes to one of the planets they destroyed, since it'll be the perfect fighting ground. It's completely barren now except for the giant tree there. Not that they'd care about collateral damage anyways, but this is a big planet and it lets them have an open space for fighting. No one else is going to get in the way. The two assume a battle stance, and Kakarot chuckles, telling Turles he hopes he can use his full power right from the start. They're not going to pace themselves here. They're going all out right from the beginning. Kakarot screams, and his roar bellows through the entire planet. A fiery red aura surrounds him, and Turles follows suit. The two power up to their maximum in Evil Saiyan. They stare each other down briefly, and then the battle begins. The rest of the Neo Crusher Corps are watching from space. This is also a good message to show them who the leaders are. They already know that Turles and Kakarot were very strong, but this only shows that they're even stronger than they thought. Instilling fear within them, but also giving them some entertainment at the same time. Although it's not too entertaining after a certain point because Turles and Kakarot are just moving so quickly that they can't even see it. Some soldiers even try using old scouters to see their power levels, but they just explode. They can't process how strong these two Saiyans are now. The planet is scorched as the two battle. Every time they clash, a shockwave of energy leaves a massive crater behind, sending debris flying into space. All that could be seen from space is flashes of red light, and that's every time the two Saiyans clash. Trails of light from where they traveled surround the entire planet, and very quickly, the planet is scarred even further by this battle. Even the tree that was left behind is completely scorched by this, combusting into basically a giant wildfire. Then explosions start occurring. The two start using Ki Blast. But there's an issue here. They're so powerful by now that if they keep fighting, this planet's going to be destroyed and they're both going to die. So at the last moment, they end up having to retreat, calling the battle off. But this battle did show them something pretty interesting. Kakarot's ahead, but only by a slight amount. Turles is catching up, and quick. The two are glad to have the battle. Both are a little bit beaten up too. It was fun to utilize their full power for once and gauge their strength, not just for themselves, but the other person that they're with. They each have an idea of how strong they are. And this gets Kakarot even more motivated. He begins working more on his own. He needs to keep that number 1 spot. He needs more strength. He needs to get this in any way possible. And Turles notices this too. But he's also kind of in the same boat. He sees how close he is to Kakarot, and knows that he could overthrow him once again. He starts doing the same, working more for himself, also trying to get stronger in whatever way he could think of. The two are growing less trusting of each other in their lust for power, and each of them thinks, maybe it's better to get rid of the other while they can. Kakarot was a means to an end for Turles at first, but Turles did grow to trust him, although that trust has diminished. Maybe Vegeta was right. Maybe he shouldn't have taken Kakarot into his crew, and Kakarot thinks he might be better off on his own, but he knows that if he's not attached to Turles, Turles will probably hunt him down and kill him. Not to mention, he'd be leaving this entire army. He wants that influence as well, and he can sense that Turles is probably trying to move against him. It takes a while. Months and months pass, but the two begin noticing this more and more. They're becoming farther apart. It's not like they were friends in the first place, but they were comrades, and they were trusting of each other a little bit at least. But the two of them are corrupted by their strength, and this pursuit of more strength is only corrupting them even further. It was only a matter of time before this became apparent. The two only work for themselves, not for others. They never really were allies. I mean, remember how Turles met Kakarot in the first place? He wiped out the entire Ginyu Force, and pushed Kakarot into his idea of trying to kill Vegeta and Nappa, as well as Raditz, who got away. Of course, Kakarot wasn't too fond of the Saiyans or the Ginyu Force, but that was a much more stable crew in his eyes. He could have stayed with it. He didn't really have a choice but to join Turles. Had he not, Turles probably would have killed him. Even though he did join on his own accord, he thinks back on it. Imagine a case where he weren't willing to join Turles. He would be dead by now. This falling out eventually leads to a power struggle, with each of them trying to take over the Neo Crusher Corps, and another battle ensues. Although this time, it's a battle to the death. It's not just an all-out battle that's a sparring match. This is a death match. The two of them are trying to kill each other. Turles tells Kakarot he shouldn't have gotten so greedy. They could have avoided this. They could have been a great crew. And Kakarot responds, what, did Turles want him to be a subordinate forever? Kakarot wasn't going to inhibit his growth just for Turles' gain. And he questions it. Why would Turles want him to be subordinate anyways? Does he not trust Kakarot? And Turles says he doesn't. He hasn't for a while. That trust has been diminishing. But Kakarot knows that this is deeper than that. Turles was jealous and fearful of Kakarot's power, and Kakarot mentions this. He knows that Turles wants it for himself. He wants to be the undisputed #1 again. And Kakarot says that era is over. The two find another abandoned planet to fight on. And this time, they don't care if the planet's going to explode. Whoever dies, dies. Even if it means both of them are going to die. They're each fighting for themselves and nobody else. This battle's even more violent and explosive than the last one. Damn. Not only have they grown stronger since then, but now of course they're trying to kill each other too, so there's that element added onto it. The two showcase their maximum strength, and Kakarot yells out at Turles. Why couldn't Turles let him grow stronger? Why did Turles want him to be a subordinate? And Turles says he's seen how Kakarot acted with others. Once Kakarot got the power, Turles didn't know what he was going to be capable of with it. Maybe he was going to take over the Crusher Core. Maybe he was going to try to kill Turles. He didn't know. But unfortunately, this was a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it just shows that the distrust went deeper than they thought. They both distrusted each other from the get-go and never even realized it. And each thought the other was going to make a move against them, but really, that wasn't going to happen. They each contributed to that, and neither of them realized it. The two could have been a good crew, but now this falling out has to occur. It's too late and they're each in too deep. The two are bloodied and beaten. Kakarot disappears from Turles' sight, and he senses a flare-up of energy, looking up into the sky. Kakarot immediately moved up there, launching a Dodonpa towards Turles. Turles counters with his own blast, as Kakarot then launches a second Dodonpa, with both merging together and growing into one powerful beam, and Turles is shocked. It's the first time he's seen Kakarot use that move in a while. Not that it really matters, it's just another beam that he could fight. But he's been so used to using the moves that Turles had. The ground erupts below Turles, a giant storm from Kakarot. He's never seen this before. Kakarot follows up by randomly launching a ton of blasts. That's Vegeta's technique, and he's actually kind of overwhelming Turles. Turles counters with his own sudden storm, countering every ki blast from Kakarot.
Nigga said, don't worry about what's in my arsenal, nigga.
And now, he's right in front of Turles. Kakarot lifts a single hand up in the air, charging purple electricity between them. Point blank, he launches a Shining Friday. Turles is barely able to counter in time, charging a Calamity Blaster to try and counter it. But he has a plan, a way to end this quickly. The two beams explode as they connect, and Turles jumps back. Quickly in his hands, he charges the Kill Driver, but instead of launching it at Kakarot, he lunges it right into the core of the planet itself, and then rushes towards his ship. The ground shakes, Kakarot loses balance, but he floats up, seeing what Turles did. What a coward. He blew up the planet. That's how he's going to retreat. The two of them are bloodied and beaten, both on their last legs, out of energy. But this was the most decisive move for Turles. It's the only way to finish this. At the very least, it lets him escape. But at best, he might be able to kill Kakarot with it. By the time Kakarot realizes what's happening, Turles already made it to the other side of the planet, getting in a ship and departing. And now, Kakarot needs to get into his. But the planet's exploding at a quick rate. He barely has any energy left, even de-transforming and going to his base form. Turles is able to make it back to the Crusher Core, while Kakarot is left to die on this planet. Thankfully, he is able to get onto his ship, barely being able to escape, and he has to completely avoid the Crusher Core, because if he goes anywhere near them, they could simply shoot down his ship, leaving him to die in space. Turles is already safe, probably on the mothership, but Kakarot right now he could be taken down by a single measly blast, one that just destroys his ship. He steers clear of them, drifting off into space as he loses consciousness. He wakes up in the middle of nowhere, and his ship tells him that he's far away from that planet that they were just at. So what's he supposed to do now? Turles is still at the Crusher Core, so he has them, and Kakarot is just abandoned. The thing is, too, they might be able to track his ship. He disables any tracking that he could find on them. The ship that he's using is one that he's been using for a while, and wasn't actually made by the Crusher Core, so that's at least a start. It seems like he is undercover. In his ship, he finds a scouter, looking around trying to find any planets nearby. Well, he could go to Earth. Going back there might work, but he doesn't really know if that'll be beneficial for him. It would be a good place to lay low, but Kakarot needs to act now. Even though he wants to lay low, he still needs to do something in the meantime. He needs to grow stronger. Earth? He wasn't growing strong there. He can't go back. At least not yet. I mean, maybe he could try and pursue those Dragon Balls, but he's not sure what's happened on Earth since. Maybe it's completely in disarray. But that reminds him, the Dragon Balls. Maybe they exist somewhere else too. Earth is a little out of the ways right now, so even then it might not be feasible. And that's if the Dragon Balls are active. Maybe they were used recently. Or maybe something happened to them. He doesn't want to take that risk. He needs to know for sure that he can get them. So instead, he decides to track down someone who he knows he could probably work with. His scouter still has the contact on there, and he doesn't think it's going to work, but he tries it. He starts a call with Raditz. This is the one person he might be able to connect with again, and maybe he can make things right. Just as I mentioned before, Kakarot didn't really have a choice with Turles. Yeah, he did willingly go with him, and he did like it, but there was no other option. If he decided he didn't want to go with Turles, that would have been the end of the story. Kakarot would have died right then and there. And it's a long shot, but he hopes this works. And surprisingly, Raditz does pick up, still having his scouter. He's both surprised and angered to hear from Kakarot,
Oh, shit.
and Kakarot explains what happened. He knows how betrayal feels, and while he wants to be number one, he's not used to working alone. But Raditz says he can't trust Kakarot. He betrayed the Saiyans, but Kakarot explains everything too. And he mentions, there's a reason he didn't try and go after Raditz, only Vegeta and Nappa. And Raditz considers this for a moment. He never thought of it that way. He knew that he was spared, whether that be accidentally or purposefully, and it seems it was purposeful. Turles and Kakarot could have killed Raditz much easier than they killed Vegeta and Nappa. And actually, getting rid of Vegeta and Nappa was good for Raditz. He's off on his own now, not being mocked and ridiculed by them. But he's in a similar situation to the one Kakarot was in when he first met Turles. He doesn't have a choice here. If he says no to Kakarot, who knows? What if Kakarot will track him down and probably kill him? He's not going to be able to defend himself against Kakarot. So he either says no and risks that, or he says yes and joins up with Kakarot. And even then, that's risky. Kakarot wants to team up with him, find someone to help him defeat Turles, and Kakarot can show him new powers that he's never had before. The two don't bond that well, but they have something that everyone else doesn't. They're related by blood. That still holds them together. They're two low-class warriors, and they're brothers.
But thick in the
Not
water.
that Saiyans hold their family very highly or anything, but that at least ties them together more than Kakarot was with Turles, or with Vegeta and Nappa for that matter. They're both low-class Saiyans that were used as a means to an end, and Raditz reluctantly accepts working with Kakarot after some explaining and some discussing. Turles is a common enemy after all. Even though Raditz doesn't like working with Kakarot, maybe he could learn to like it. He's actually with another crew now though, and that's the issue. And Kakarot's surprised. What crew's he with? They killed the Hera clan, and
With the
Kakarot
Ginyu
remembers a
Force?
similar group called the Heaters or something, but they're very weak and never got in the way of the Crusher Corps. There's also some rumor floating around that Frieza has an estranged brother, but Raditz says it's not him either. And that at least puts Kakarot's mind at ease because he doesn't know if that rumor's true or not. Alright, so what faction is he with then? And Raditz asks Kakarot, has he ever heard of the Namekians? Of course he has. But what does that have to do with anything? Is he on planet Namek or something? Well, not quite. He's working with a Namekian. Actually, someone who considers himself a super Namekian, trying to seek more power. It's a guy by the name of Lord Slug. Kakarot's never heard of him before,
Lord
but
Slug.
whatever, if he's strong, maybe their crews can work together. And that's the thing. Raditz says Kakarot probably isn't stronger than Lord Slug. And Kakarot laughs at this notion. He begs to differ. There's no way a Namekian could be that strong. And he can tell just by the way Raditz is explaining everything, this isn't an ideal setup for him. He doesn't want to work under Lord Slug. This invite to Kakarot, it's a way for them to rise up against this crew. Raditz only joined basically to have a steady job and a way to survive.
Right.
And it's weird to think that a Namekian is that strong that he keeps a Saiyan oppressed like that. Does it mean Raditz is just really weak, or is Lord Slug actually very strong? Because
Slug's kinda
Raditz
strong.
definitely has grown stronger since then. There's no way he hasn't. At least in Kakarot's mind, he thinks so. But they're going to see for themselves. Kakarot flies over to where Raditz is, meeting up with his brother again after a while. And it's a really weird reunion. And just to make sure there's no suspicion, Raditz does need to introduce him to Lord Slug. Although, Lord Slug's not here at the moment. He doesn't exactly know where Slug went, but apparently it's something important. So they get in contact with Lord Slug,
Okay.
and he sees Kakarot on video. Another Saiyan, Raditz's brother. That could be a very good addition to his crew. He assumes he's probably around the same strength as Raditz, so he accepts it. He doesn't see Kakarot as a threat, and if anything, that'll help Raditz be much more efficient.
Kakarot is a
He's
first
already a
threat.
fine soldier in his crew. But any improvements are welcome, and Slug gets off the call very quickly. It was a very brief meeting, and Kakarot doesn't really know why. Raditz is a little confused too. He doesn't know what Slug is up to, but it's probably something that they're not going to benefit from. Especially with him being so unfazed by Kakarot joining the crew, maybe it's something they have to be concerned about. Where is he? And Raditz tells Kakarot this. Now that they're in person, they could discuss. And it's just like Kakarot thought. They could overthrow Lord Slug together. And not only that, they'll grow strong enough to overthrow Turles, finally killing him for good. But Raditz is still unsure. He tells Kakarot he's grown much stronger since their last encounter. He's working to become a Super Saiyan. His power has increased dramatically, but he still doesn't have this form yet, if it even is a form or whatever. And that's very interesting to Kakarot. He tells Raditz he's discovered something interesting. It definitely isn't Super Saiyan. It's something else. Some sort of weird mutation they got from eating fruits from the Tree of Might. And that's actually good news because he does have some seeds left from the Tree of Might. He powers up, showing off Evil Saiyan to Raditz. And Raditz's jaw drops. At the same time, Turles is out there plotting his next move. Maybe they need to move on from
Is he?
planets. What if there was a way to plant the Tree of Might on stars or something? It's outlandish, but it could be possible. Anything is with him. He doesn't know what Kakarot's up to, but he knows it's probably not good. And he'll get ahead of that any way possible. He'll absorb the power of stars for himself now, moving up, maybe even galaxies next, maybe the universe. It's limitless, and Turles is
hold your
hyped.
fire, buddy.
As Turles plots his next move, and Kakarot meets up with Raditz, this is where we'll...
This kind of jogged my memory a little bit. Two great chapters by Charlotte Sand, and I don't know, Goku Kakarot versus Turles. I liked that little. They had a little conflict inside. They were cool just a minute ago. But anyway, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll have part one right here, and I'll have another story right here, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.